The California Academy of Sciences was founded in 1853. These people who weren't necessarily trained as scientists but cared about nature and the natural world thought that it was time to get together and study and talk and just fulfill their curiosity. So the Academy's mission is to protect, explain, and explore the natural world. And what that means is that, one, there's just so much in nature that we still need to discover and learn more about. Even over the 150 years of the Academy, we discover new species all the time. Our scientists discover and explain and publish and do research about things that nobody's ever seen before, nobody's ever described before. So there's still so much science and nature that's left to discover out there. The other thing that we do, though, is that we want to use that information to either inspire the next generation, to help people think about how they connect to the natural world, how they can enjoy their lives better, and also what they can do in their everyday lives to protect the natural world. We know that there's so many environmental issues that we're all facing, and we want people to appreciate what we have and also to protect what we have. The museum was closed December in 2003, and there was people from all over the Bay Area and probably people from beyond who came and celebrated our last day. And so when we closed the doors, there was a lot of tears. We were able to open the new museum just, close to 4 to 5 years later on September 27th, 2008. The part of the building itself that's still here are just 2 walls of Africa Hall. And we wanted to preserve Africa Hall because at the time it was built in the 1930s, we were sort of on the forefront of using museums to educate people and bring people closer to nature. So we wanted to bring back some of that legacy. So we saved a couple of the walls in Africa Hall. And then we've also recreated things so that it looks like the traditional old Academy, including parts of our barrel vault for the aquarium. We also brought back a lot of great exhibits like the pendulum and Africa Hall dioramas, the seahorse railing. So when we decided to do this project and build a new building and tear down the earthquake-damaged old California Academy of Sciences, we knew that in order to meet our mission, there was only one way to do it, and that is to build it green. When we talk about how we recycled the glass and the steel and the rubble from the old building went in to make roads in Richmond, that was thought out and planned in advance so that we would have the least amount of impact on the natural world and be a model, not just for other museums, but for people in their own homes. So how can we use materials that are the most sustainably gathered? So everything from our wood, we try to use trees that have been felled for other reasons, or we use sustainable wood products. So our green roof is pretty amazing because it is the only one in the world that has so many hills and bumps and is steep and so on. The way the roof is set up is that we have drainages in between the plants. And so we've set up these lava rocks, actually, because they're very porous, allow the water to run off. And we had our green roof installed right before we had those really major rainstorms in the winter here of 2008. And so we were nervous, but when they survived those pretty strong storms, we knew that we were in good shape. It also channels cool air into the building because cool air sinks along the slopes of the hill. And the green roof is one, we wanted to provide natural habitat for native plants and insects. So we actually picked species of plants that are native not just to San Francisco, but to within 25 miles of this spot right here. And it's 2 acres of native plants up on our roof. But that also has a green for energy resources and so on. One is it helps insulate us so that we don't get as hot or as cold with the extreme temperature because we have all the soil and plants protecting the roof. The roof also provides us with area for skylights. And so those skylights can open up to vent out the hot air but it also lets in sunlight. It can be open to the elements or closed off, and it's still a place where kids can run around. We now call it the piazza because we have an Italian architect. But the idea has always been the same, that it's the center, it's the heart of the academy where families gather. It's the first place you visit, it's the last place you visit before you go home, and that's still part of it.
Claude, the albino alligator, spends much of his time resting on a heated rock. He was born in captivity in Florida and came to the museum in August 2008. Albinos usually do not survive in the wild because they are not camouflaged and are easily spotted by predators.
And we also have along the roof at the edges is where we have our solar panels as well. And one of the things we wanted to show there is not only can we provide energy for the building with these solar voltaic cells, but it can be beautiful as well. And we hear people say that, oh, I don't want to install solar panels because it'll be ugly, my neighbors won't like it. And we say, our architect wanted to use these because they're so beautiful, and look at how great they look. And so don't use that as an excuse. You can have a beautiful building and be green at the same time and make those decisions in a really wise way.
The DeYoung Museum tower in the background is 144 feet high. The new museum was completed in 2005.
In the insulation, instead of using fiberglass, we used blue jean denim that were either recycled from college campuses or were factory floor rejects. And that is something that's just as efficient, but also it's not as damaging to the workers. So the construction workers, it's much safer for them. And of course, it's better for the environment because we're recycling waste materials. The last section of the California Academy of Sciences is the Natural History Museum. And here we bring out exhibits that also have live animals that talk a little bit about earth sciences and so on. Our exhibits, there's a few main ones. One is Africa Hall, where we really talk about the diversity of organisms in Africa, one of the great continents of the earth.
Plasma touchscreens are located throughout Africa Hall. This is a new addition to the Academy and provides an interactive experience. The visitor can choose an adventure and take a virtual safari. Through the touch screens, the visitor can view the animals in the wild and see their habitats and how they adapt to their environment. Leopards are found throughout Africa. They can survive in the mountains, the forests, and savannas, and even in the desert. They are frequently found resting in trees. Most chameleons live in trees, bushes, and other plants. Some smaller species live on the ground under foliage. The chameleon has a long tongue which curls up inside its mouth. In some cases, the tongue can be as long as 1.5 times the length of the chameleon. The tongue moves faster than the human eye can follow. It has a sticky top on the end, which helps the chameleon to catch prey. They can rotate and focus their eyes separately and can focus on 2 different objects at the same time. This ability gives them 360-degree vision around their body. Each front foot has 5 toes. 2 outside toes are fused together, and the 3 inside toes are fused together. This is how they can grasp narrow branches. Each toe has a sharp claw. The back feet are different for males and females. A male has 3 toes on the outside, and a female has 4 toes on the outside. The penguins are members of the Species Survival Plan Building Program. All of the penguins were hatched in captivity. The African penguin colony consists of 20 penguins. 13 are on display, 8 adults and 5 juveniles. African penguins mate for life and are monogamous. The new penguin chicks are not in the exhibit. Pamela Schaller, senior aquatic biologist, supervises the growing chicks as they swim. in a shallow quarantine pool. When they become strong enough swimmers, they are slowly introduced into the adult colony. The process takes several weeks until the young penguins are totally comfortable with the adults and with the exhibit. The new tank holds 25,000 gallons of water and is more than twice the size of the old tank. At 10:30 a.m. and 3:30 p.m., Ms. Schaller puts on a wetsuit to feed the penguins. Wearing a microphone and headphones, she takes questions from the visitors. Since the beginning, the Academy has been a forerunner in hiring women scientists. In the 1800s, women with degrees in science frequently had to take the jobs of cataloging and calculation. The Academy did not discriminate against women, hiring them to positions as full scientists. The penguin on the rocks to the left of the biologist is Pierre. At 25, he is the oldest penguin in the colony. Pierre started losing his feathers, so the Academy hired a company in San Leandro, California to design a wetsuit for him. Before he got the wetsuit, he was shivering and afraid to go into the water. And after he got the wetsuit, he started gaining weight, and his feathers grew back. He wore the wetsuit for 2 months. At feeding time, the penguins jump into the water in anticipation. The adults have their hierarchy established, and the juveniles are finding their place in the pecking order. Each penguin has an arrangement of spots on the chest. The pattern of spots is different and unique for each bird, just as fingerprints are different for each human being. The black and white coloring protects the birds from predators. They are white underneath to confuse underwater predators looking upward, and they are black on top to confuse predators looking down at the dark water. Penguins get water from the fish they eat. They can stay underwater for up to 2 minutes. The average lifespan is 10 years. However, there have been individual penguins who lived up to 40 years in captivity. Schaller is feeding the penguins a diet of vitamin-enriched herring and capelin. The Morrison Planetarium is the largest all-digital planetarium in the world. It is the most accurate and interactive digital universe ever created. The planetarium is contained in a 90-foot diameter dome. There is a 75-foot diameter projection screen tilted at a 30-degree angle.
We have this huge facility where you get to sit there and you feel like you're going to Mars, or you're exploring the new planets that were just discovered over at UC Berkeley the other week. That's the kind of thing that we are able to do in our digital dome, which is the planetarium. And we have a show called The Fragile Planet, which talks about our place in the universe and how unique the Earth is. Another exhibit is called Islands of Evolution, where we talk about how islands have inspired biologists for a long time, and everything from medicinal plants, like how healers in native communities can tell us something about the biology of medicine, for example. I imagine this family coming here, and they all are watching a different DVD, and you have the kids on the iPods, and everyone's having a different conversation. You get into the museum and you are now in front of our Islands in Evolution exhibit, playing with an interactive. And now the kids are talking to each other and the parents are interacting and the grandparents are telling them about, I remember seeing this pendulum when I was a kid. It's that kind of experience that I think is unique to a museum.